Yo, what's happening, guys? It's GM Cody, and welcome back to another episode. It's been a couple weeks since we've done one. And this week, we've been taking a little break from talking about role playing games, but tonight I wanted to come in here and talk about some role playing games. Specifically, I want to talk about me as a GM, a game master, dungeon master, storyteller, what have you, and my biggest flaws as a game master is what we're going to be talking about tonight. Specifically, we're going to be talking about one big flaw I have. And this has been mulling around in my brain and how I'm going to go about fixing this. Now, I have been running games here on the channel for the past couple of years, really. I guess it's been 2 years now. Wow. And a lot of them have not lasted very long, right? Well, we'll get to that in a minute. But anyways, I've been running some games here on the channel and been able to play in some games, which is really cool. I don't usually get to be a player. And it's made me reevaluate myself as a game master. I think this is good to do as a game master for all of us out there that are game masters or dungeon masters or whatever, to kind of step back and look at our flaws and how we can fix things. Now, we can talk about little things, and I think all of us as game masters make little mistakes here and there. I know I do all the time. I know you guys do too. You know, I know many of the people here that watch. Many of the guys here that watch, you're game masters in your own right. We have a lot of good game masters in this community, and we all make mistakes from time to time. But the one thing is to notice your mistakes and try to correct them. I've always been trying to get better as not just a game master, but as a player as well. And I think that's important to do. I think it's important to self-reflect about what you're doing wrong and how to fix it. Now, we can talk about all the little things, like I said, nitpick, and I do. I do go back and watch my games occasionally just to see things I could have done better the last time. But regardless, I still make mistakes. And I've been doing this for almost 30 years now, running games, and I still make mistakes all the time. There's no reason really to make a list of every little mistake I've made because I'm very aware of the little mistakes I made. But the big mistakes I make, the big flaws that I have as a game master is what I want to talk about tonight. And like I said, one specific one. And I actually took some notes when I got back. I went to the movies and got back and made this little list of notes here. So let's jump right into it. So number one, my biggest flaws as a game master. My number one flaw, now the first two are smaller things that I'm not as concerned about. But the third one is the main topic tonight. So number one is I'm not that creative. I don't think this is really that big of a problem. I don't think you need to be extremely creative to be a good game master. And I consider myself a pretty good game master. I'm not like the best there is or anything, the best there ever was or whatever. But I do consider myself a decent game master. I definitely know, comparing myself to other people that I do an okay job, I think. I think, everybody else thinks I do too. So I don't think creativity is the end-all, be-all, but I have been striving to be more creative and go outside the box. Now, when I was younger, I was a lot more creative than I am now, I've noticed. When I think back to my younger days, I came up with some wild stuff, and I don't know where that came from. I guess when you're younger, your imagination just runs a little bit more wild than you do when you're older. For most people, at least it has for me. It seems like my creativity and my imagination is not nearly as strong as it was when I was a younger dude. But it's something I've been trying to work on, is be a little bit more creative with stuff. But I don't necessarily think that's as important to running a good game, but it is something, I think it's a minor flaw that I've been trying to work on. Number two, this is kind of a little bit bigger flaw, is I can be a bit of a pushover. I'm a nice guy, unfortunately. And, that comes with, that's a good thing and a bad thing. And sometimes I can be a little too nice. And that goes as well for running the game. I tend to just roll with the punches, which is not a bad thing to do as a game master, by the way. But every once in a while, you just need to say, no, we're not going to do that. Or you need to call somebody out, I think. And a lot of times I don't tend to do that. I just let people do what they want to do. And, eventually it kind of catches up with me. I don't do this all the time. I mean, I've said no to people plenty of times. But a lot of times I'm pretty copacetic with everybody. That's really my nature. It's not even my demeanor to be a nice guy. It's just my nature to get along with everybody. I've always been that way. But it can be a bit of a problem when you're running a game. A game master does need to be a leader. And one of the qualities of being a good leader is, saying yes or no, or taking charge, taking people by the lapels occasionally, which sometimes I fail to do. So it's one of those things that I don't always do, and I tend to self-correct, but occasionally it spirals out of control. But number 3 is the main topic what we're talking about tonight, and it's one I've been dwelling on a lot. And one of the reasons I've been taking a break from running games is because this has been bothering me pretty heavily. And I think this is something that plagues a lot of game masters. Like, it doesn't seem like it's just localized to me. It seems like it plagues a lot of people. Some people it doesn't, but it seems the vast majority of people that I've interacted with, especially in the couple years being here on YouTube and playing in games, I've noticed other game masters as well. But it's kind of bothering me. I don't think it just bothers game masters. I think it bothers players as well. And I have trouble keeping a game going for an extended period of time. This has been a problem that has plagued me since I've started gaming. I've had very few campaigns last very long. Most campaigns drop, they teeter out after about 4 to 6 sessions, and they kind of die off. And that's for a number of reasons. It's not necessarily one reason. It's not necessarily my fault completely. It really is my fault, though, because as the game master, again, you should be the leader of the group, and you should be able to keep the excitement going and keep the game going. But sometimes circumstances fall out of your control. People get busy with work. People move. Things like that. Things happen. Life happens, and sometimes it's just out of your control. But a lot of times it is my fault. A lot of times it is, and there's a number of reasons why I think. And I've dwelt on this. Number one, I think I have a little bit of ADHD, and my attention gets swerved really quickly to things. I get really passionate about something, but that passion doesn't always stick for a long time. Some things it does. There's a few things in my life that really hasn't died out. But sometimes I get into something and it dies out very quickly. And that happens a lot when I'm running a game. I get really excited about an idea. I get really excited and pumped to play the game. The first few sessions go really well. Then I just get tired of it and want to move on to something else. And that is definitely a problem, right? Like, I recognize it, and I think it frustrates a lot of players that have played with me, is that I get tired and burned out on something. I want to do something else new very quickly. I just want to shift to something else, and that happens a lot. I think that's probably the main reason that I have trouble getting game going. I think some of the other reasons is sometimes I think that it's the players, the people you play with, which I've talked about a little bit in the past. I've come to realize as I've gotten older, I think the people you play with is very important. And sometimes the people you're playing with are not a great fit for you, or maybe just that specific game you're running, that specific idea you have. I think you need a certain kind of player to really get behind the idea. A prime example I always give is Star Trek. I think if you're going to play in a Star Trek game, you need to have people that are a little bit invested in the idea of playing Star Trek, because Star Trek has very, very specific themes and ideas that it portrays to make it feel like Star Trek. Now, you could be playing in a Star Trek game, but if you want to play in a true Star Trek game, you have to be just a little bit dedicated to the idea of Star Trek and what that is. If not, it's not going to be that great of a Star Trek experience. The same goes, I think, for superhero games. If you're going to run a traditional superhero game, I think you have to have people that are invested and dedicated to the idea of committed to the idea of wanting to play a superhero game like 4-color comic books. Now, of course, superheroes are a little bit more broad than Star Trek. I think you can do a lot more. Now, there's an argument that you can do a lot more in Star Trek too, but none of that sounds fun to me, unless you're playing Klingons. But you definitely could. You could play traders and you could do all kinds of stuff. But I think Star Trek is, you want to play for me, I want to play the crew on a Federation starship and go on adventures like in the shows. I'm not really interested in doing anything else in Star Trek. Superheroes is a little more broad, though, because you can do a lot of stuff. You can do vigilantes. You can do something like The Watchmen, where it's kind of like deconstruction of superheroes. You can do dark superheroes. There's a lot of stuff you can do there. You could do Golden Age, Silver Age, Bronze Age, which have very different themes. You could do kind of a comedy kind of thing like The Tick. And I've explored all these different avenues with superhero games. So, but I think the point being is I think you need to have players that are dedicated to the ideas that you want to promote to the game. And this is another flaw of mine. Sometimes I'm not very clear about what my goals are when I set up to run a campaign, because a lot of times I'm thinking that the players, I kind of like feed off the players, and I really enjoy doing that. And I always feel like the players are going to feed me what their goals are going to be, but a lot of times they don't, right? They just kind of meander around and expect me to give them something. So I feel like maybe that's another minor flaw I have, is sometimes I'm just not very clear cut about what kind of game I want to run. Sometimes I am, sometimes I'm not. I think that also just depends on the system that I'm running. But I think in the next game I'm going to run, I'm going to be a little bit more clear cut about what the ideals of the game are going to be. So that's some of the reasons why I have trouble keeping a game going. How am I going to fix this? Okay. I think first off, I need to commit to the idea of running a game, right? I need to say, okay, I'm going to run this campaign. This is what I'm going to run. I need to pick a game system that really excites me and make sure that it's going to be something that's going to last for a specific amount of time. And I think that's another thing, is I need to set a goal for how long this game is going to last. Set a goal, maybe 10 sessions, 15 sessions, 20 sessions, 30 sessions, whatever. Set a goal for how long this campaign's going to last, or at least a rough goal. You know what I mean? If I fall a little short of that, that's fine. As long as the game comes to a conclusion, I guess, I think I'd be fine. And that's one of the main problems that I have, is most of my games don't come to a satisfying conclusion. I have had a few, but it's very few and far between. Honestly, and like I said earlier to start off with this video, it's not a problem that just plagues me either. I think it's a problem that plagues a lot of you guys too, because I've played in a lot of other games as a player and noticed this too, that a lot of the campaigns never come to a satisfying conclusion. So that's one thing I want to do. I want to set a goal, not only how many game sessions we're going to play, but I also want to set a goal that what the theme of the game is, and come to a satisfying conclusion regardless, even if I fall short of that session number. And looking over my notes here, I think I pretty much covered everything here, how to fix this. The other thing, like I said earlier, is I think I'm going to handpick the players for the game. I'm going to decide on a game. I'm not going to argue or squabble with anybody. I'm going to decide on the game we're going to run. And I'm going to handpick some players that I feel, or I'll let people, also, if somebody's really interested, we can have a discussion about it. But I'm pretty much going to be very picky and gatekeepy about the players that I'm going to do in my next game. And I don't think that's a bad thing to do either. I've talked about this in the past. I don't think gatekeeping for your game is a bad thing. I just don't think everybody is a right fit for a specific game or a specific group. And for me, I think it's a little bit of both. I gatekeep both areas here, and I think I need to do a little bit more for specific games, which I don't always do. I definitely gatekeep specific people I want to game with. I'm very picky about the people I game with. I'm not as picky about the people that are going to be playing a specific game, but this next time around, I think I'm going to be. I don't think it's a bad thing to do. As much as there is preaching around gatekeeping, I don't think it's a cardinal sin in role-playing. I don't think it's a bad thing to do. Some other things. Let's see. So I guess that kind of covers where I'm at here and what's going on in my head and why I've been taking a break from this. And I've kind of had to step back after the last game I ran and last campaign I ran and really think about what I'm going to do next and what this big flaw is that I had, this big hang up I've always had running games. So, what am I gonna do? I'm obviously gonna run another game. I'm not gonna quit role playing, right? I've been taking a little bit break from running games, but I'm definitely gonna come back to it. So first thing, what game am I gonna run? I don't know. I've got a stack of games here. that I've been thinking about. For the past couple weeks, I've just been literally coming home from work and like staring at my bookshelves back there and combing over my games and thinking about what I want to run. Number one, I want to run a game that I don't see very often run online because this is going to be streamed online. I like streaming my games. I like showing people just how how an actual role playing session runs, and I like that it's not really purely for entertainment purposes, but I do like that people, enjoy watching people play games. I specifically really don't. I don't really like watching streamed games, but I know a lot of you guys do. And I really do enjoy sharing our games with you guys. So it will be streamed. But I wanted to pick out a game that I don't see played very often. So I've been combing over some stuff and games that I've been wanting to run. I've got like a stack of games here that I've been considering. So number one is, and I think I've talked about just about all these games in the past, it's Talislanta. This is the second edition, and this is probably the version I would run. I've always wanted to run this game. I've got to run it a few times for just short spells. I've never got to run never had a good run of this game, and I'd really like to do it. I think it's a cool game. There's a lot of negativity surrounding it, a lot of people that are put off by it. I really like it. And you can watch my video that I did a couple years ago about Talislanta, about a year and a half ago. And I talk specifically about the second edition, go over this game and why I like it and everything. But this is one I'm considering. Another one is I might do some superheroes. Now, I love Heroic, the game that Bear's running. But Bear's running a lot of Heroic games, so I might run a different superhero game. Specifically, there's two here that I'm thinking of. One is Prowlers and Paragons, which I ran in the past. And I really like Prowlers and Paragons. But I have ran this before, but I might go back to it. Another one is Champions. Yes, believe it or not, I have been eyeballing Champions. And you can see the big hero book back there, right there on the couch. I've also been looking through that, but this is the big blue book that I actually like this better. It's just more, I don't know, I just like looking at this book more than I like looking at the big blue book. And I don't have the 6th edition, don't plan to buy it. This is good enough for me, and this is the version I really like. And I think this is probably the version, this one or 5th edition is probably what I would run. The other one is Rifts. I have played in several Rifts campaigns, and those few Rifts campaigns I played back in the day were pretty long running and did actually have successful conclusions. This is one of the one games I played in that it did actually have conclusions every time we played it, which was great, and they were pretty long running. I don't think I've ever ran a long running. I don't think I've ran a long running Rifts campaign. And everybody talks about Rifts, but I rarely see anybody playing it, especially online. And it's something I've been considering for the past year or so to go back to. So this is one that's like pretty high up there in consideration. Another one that I've kind of like passively thinking about is Gamma World 4th edition. I did start running a Gamma World 1st edition game offline about a year or so ago, and for whatever reason it just fell apart. I don't know if that was my doing or if I got busy or what happened. Unfortunately, that one just kind of fell apart, and it was pretty good. But I think I would want to run this at some point, Gamma World 4th edition. Another one that I'm considering that's pretty high up on the list is Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, specifically the 1st edition. This is definitely a very old school, deadly, dark game. I talked about it again on my channel. You can go watch the video on it. But I've only played and ran this a little bit. A little bit more than Talislanta, but not as much as I'd like, and I'd like to go back and revisit this game and run a game of it. It'd be really cool. And finally, the other one I'm thinking about running, and I've thought about it for a while, is MERP, Middle-earth Role-Playing, the original. I wouldn't run against the Dark Master. I think I would just run MERP. Not Rolemaster, just out of this book, and I do have some of the old supplements and stuff, but this is one I've considered running as well as MERP. And I don't know if we've talked about MERP on the channel. I don't think we have. We've talked about Rolemaster, but I haven't looked at MERP, and maybe I'll do a video about MERP. But this is a game we played when I was young, And we played this, when I was like in middle school, I guess, and had a lot of fun of it. And we also played Rollmaster. And also the other thing I'm considering is I'll probably pre-make characters for everybody for these systems, because some of these systems, the hardest part of the game, like the hero system, it's not really that difficult game to play. The hardest part of that game is making a character. So I would probably just pre-make characters for most of these games, I think, and then be like, here's the characters. You guys can pick from them. Again, not only some of the systems, but also some of the worlds would be a little complex, I think, for people to wrap their head around, like Talislanta. And this way, they're not, because there's like 40 different character types or whatever you can pick. I can just be like, okay, here's like 6 character types, and they're fully statted out, kitted out, skilled out. Pick what you want, right? And there's actually one more that I have been considering under the couch here. And I've done a video about this too, and I've been looking at this again. And that is, hold on, my chair's broken. I gotta spin this around. Yep, okay. My wheel's broken on my chair. And, yeah. That is Alternity. I did a video of this again, and this is a game I haven't played in a long time, at least 20 years or more. And I've been looking through this again, and it's pretty cool. And not a lot of sci-fi going on in the YouTubes. And I think it'd be cool to run a sci-fi game. And this was the one that kind of popped in my head because it's just, I don't know if I've ever seen anybody play this on YouTube. And I think it looks like it would still hold up. I don't know if it will or not. But I think it'd be pretty cool to run. So anyways, those are kind of my thoughts about my biggest flaw as a game master, how I'm going about this. I'm thinking out loud to you guys, and maybe get some feedback from you guys. Tell me what you think. Tell me what your biggest flaw is, and maybe out of those games that I picked out there, which one would you like to see me run? Not that that's going to influence me too much, but it might influence me a little bit. But anyways, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. And yeah, make sure to give it a thumbs up if you liked it. And we'll see you next time. Peace.